reason we're here. Based on this story, that someone was putting up a sign to a senator. People who put up the sign for the senator saw this over here. They contacted the city department because they don't want any of this by the sign, and so that's why we're here.
See, this is the Midwest. Indications are that farmers could produce 4 to 8 tons of hemp stalk per acre. In that case, the farm income generated could be $30 billion annually. Our methanol would cost consumers 60 cents to $1 a gallon. This in turn would make farm revenues of $5.7 to $34 billion per year. Hemp seed oil could also be, and has been, successfully used in a new type of diesel engine that runs on vegetable oil. Do you realize the importance of this fact? The greenhouse effect would be reversed in a scant few years with an actual boost to our economy.
The Conestoga wagons and prairie schooners of pioneer days were covered with hempen canvas. Indeed, the very word canvas comes from the Arabic word for hemp. But now, with Philippine and East Indian sources of hemp in the hands of the Japanese, and shipment of jute from India curtailed, American hemp must meet the needs of our Army and Navy as well as of our industries.
See, the main reason we're here, based on this story, that someone was putting up a sign to a senator. People who put up the sign for the senator saw this over here. They contacted the city department because they don't want any of this by the sign, and so that's why we're here.
Cannabis sativa, hemp, marijuana, the devil's weed, made illegal in 1937 by an act of Congress. You would think that after 50 years of eradication attempts, the plant cannabis sativa, or the dreaded marijuana plant, would have long since been extinct, or at the very least, under control. Well, the facts are shown here for the first time. Cannabis grows quite luxuriantly throughout all the Midwest and surrounding areas. When I have told individuals of this, they are skeptical at best, and they ask many questions, like, what do you mean marijuana grows all over the Midwest? Who planted it? You mean to say it's been growing wild for how long? It's hard to believe. Show me. Well, here is your proof, non-believers. As you can see, this is the Midwest, and this is marijuana. First, we must understand several definitions for certain words. First is cannabis sativa. Cannabis sativa is the scientific name for a common plant found throughout the world. This plant is commonly called hemp. This plant has been used for thousands of years for many of its uses. Among them are fiber, for cloth, thread, rope, twine, string, paper products, oil products, as a food source, and as a source of medicinal and recreational drugs, and more than 15,000 other products. Second, marijuana is one of the many drugs that are produced by the plant cannabis sativa or hemp. Marijuana is not a plant, but a drug produced from a plant, much in the same way that many other drugs are produced by plants. This has been a common misunderstanding. Most people believe that marijuana is a plant and cannabis is a drug. Third is hemp. Hemp is the common name for the plant Cannabis sativa. Since the dawn of time, we have utilized the plant cannabis for many of its uses. Among these were its extremely strong and versatile fibers. It can be said that without hempen sails and rope, that is, the sails and rope made of hemp fiber, our continent and country would not have been discovered. The fact is that cotton, when exposed to the sea air, degrades very quickly and rots away in 6 months. Hempen sails, on the other hand, lasted for up to 2 years. While hemp sails could travel around the world, cotton could barely make it to the New World, much less back again. Without hemp as a source for fiber for the North, our Civil War may well have ended with the South victorious and our great country permanently divided. Had not the North been able to produce a fiber crop, our history may well have been very different today. During World War I and II, patriotic farmers were encouraged to grow the hemp plant for its badly needed fiber and fuel for the war effort. All of this time, the Agriculture Department knew that hemp produced many things, including mind-altering substances. They were, according to reports, a novelty not to be concerned with. Very little mention was given to this fact, and it went by unnoticed until the mid-30s of this century. Why? Well, hemp, it was being discovered, could be used in the manufacture of many products that were being manufactured or considering to be manufactured from other products. What are some of these other uses of cannabis sativa or hemp? Fiber products. Basically, anything that is made of a natural fiber can be made from hemp. In fact, hemp could replace most of the uses for synthetic fibers. Cloth. Cloth of every grade. Levi's got their name for durability from the hempen cloth they used. In fact, on the West Coast, they recycled old hempen sails from sailing ships. The people of the frontier needed long-lasting clothing, and Levi's provided it for a profit. Rope. Rope of any size and strength can be made from hemp fiber. Hemp is actually 10 times as strong as cotton. Until the invention of the cotton gin, hemp and cotton were very labor-intensive crops. That is part of the reasons why we needed slaves, or a cheap labor force, to process the crops. With the invention of the cotton gin, cotton became cheaper to produce than hemp. This continued until the early 1900s, when several machines were developed to process hemp. At this time, the cost to produce hemp again became competitive with cotton and other fibers. Paper products. Paper of every grade can be made from the inner portion of the hemp stalk. Hemp will outproduce trees 4 to 1 in the production of paper. Currently, in 1988, the United States used 54.1 million metric tons of pulp trees for the production of paper products. If the farmers of the United States were to grow hemp in its place, we would need to farm 10 to 27 million acres of hemp. This acreage would produce enough paper for the United States for 1 year. We could pay the farmer a minimum of $700 per acre or $350 a metric ton for stalks. This would generate $18.9 billion of annual farm income. Indications are that farmers could produce 4 to 8 tons of hemp stalk per acre. In that case, the farm income generated could be $30 billion annually. The cost of paper would also be reduced from 50 to 70%. If we use the previous figures, you will see that hemp pulp will cost $300 to $400 per metric ton. Currently, pulp trees receive a price of $700 to $1,000 per metric ton. Simple math reveals a reduction in cost of 50 to 70%. Hemp paper is environmentally safe. In the production of tree pulp, sulfuric acid must be used to the detriment of the environment. Hemp requires only the use of lime and hydrogen peroxide to bleach the paper white. Hemp paper could be produced in the same mills currently turning out tree paper and pulp. Fuel. Hemp could also be used for the production of methanol. According to World War II production rates of hemp per acre, we could produce the equivalent of 10 to 15 barrels of oil from 1 acre of hemp. If we use the production rates that are evident in the countries currently producing hemp, we could produce the equivalent of 20 to 30 barrels of oil per acre of hemp. Can we fuel the nation with hemp? The answer is yes. According to the United States Agricultural Statistics, in the United States, we have in excess of 950 million acres of farmland. Of that land, we planted in 1987 some 450 million acres. This leaves some 450 to 500 million acres unplanted. In order to produce the amount of methanol to fuel all of our transportation needs, we would need to plant some 12 to 34 million acres of hemp. This would produce the biomass necessary to fuel our country. As you can see, we would only need some 7 to 10% of the unplanted farmland. What would the value to the farm economy be for fuel production? Well, that of course would depend on the consumer price that we would like to have. If we were to give the farmer a price of $300 to $700 per acre, our methanol would cost consumers 60 cents to $1 a gallon. This in turn would make farm revenues of $5.7 to $34 billion per year. Hemp seed oil could also be, and has been, successfully used in a new type of diesel engine that runs on vegetable oil. Lubricants. Hemp seed oil can be used for most of our lubrication needs. As a food source, hemp seed cake is high in protein. In fact, hemp seed is second only to that of soybeans. This cake can be used to feed animals, or can be processed into items as soybeans and other grains are processed into. What happened? Why didn't hemp become the staple it had once been? Many industries felt threatened by hemp. At the time, many companies were coming of age and power, and saw the threat that hemp could become to their industries, so began a smear campaign against the crop. First, the cotton industry must have felt a threat from hemp fiber being competitive and stealing market back again. Second, the paper industry must have felt a threat from the fact that paper made from hemp was 1/4 the expense and required no large tree holdings. Third, the evolving petrochemical industry must have felt a threat to its oil if hemp were to be used to produce methanol fuels for autos and trucks as it was meant to be. Fourth, the pharmaceutical industry felt the threat to its patent medicines if the medicinal products of hemp were to be used in their stead. As you can see, many industries had a threat imposed upon them by the continued production of hemp. You must understand the times and the methods used in this smear campaign. At the time, racism was rampant throughout our country. Whites wanted to keep blacks in their place, and the use of marijuana by the poor, blacks, Hispanics, and others, instead of the expensive alcohol, was used as a means to control the undesirables. The mindset being that control their pleasure and you control them. Articles began to appear throughout the country about how minorities, after ingesting marijuana, had no regard for the white man's Jim Crow laws, was insolent for looking a white man in the eye, not riding or eating in their proper places, etc., etc. Later, articles began to show that when white people ingested this same substance with these people, that they soon became sympathetic toward their plight. Some articles even went so far as to say that the result of white women smoking marijuana with black men was pregnancy. It soon became clear to the white majority that this until now unheard of drug, marijuana, had to be stopped before we all felt the same way. You must remember that until the 1930s, the word marijuana did not even exist. Most everyone knew of the plant cannabis and even its drug effects. In the early editions of the Sears Roebuck catalog, there are ads for hashish candy, in the words of Mr. Sears.
A most pleasurable and harmless stimulant. Cures nervousness, weakness, melancholy. Inspires all classes with new life and energy.
During all of our history, till the late 1930s that is, we had Turkish hash parlors and other stores that openly sold marijuana and other cannabis products. Physicians were able, and did, prescribe cannabis products for a number of ailments. But no longer. There are only 5 people who can currently receive marijuana for medicinal purposes. Marijuana has many medicinal properties and uses. It can be used in the treatment of the following disorders. Asthma. Smoking cannabis can be beneficial to most asthmatics. It appears from research that cannabis can dilate the bronchial tubes and relieve spasms. Epilepsy. It appears from initial research that cannabis reduces the seizures and spasms of some epileptics and muscular dystrophy patients. Sleep disorders. Cannabis can assist those who suffer from most sleep and nervous disorders, all without the need for dangerous and addictive mood alterants. Cannabis marijuana can also be used in conjunctive therapy with many other drugs. Chemotherapy. Cannabis can alleviate some of the effects of chemotherapy. Marijuana eases the nausea and vomiting and also increases the patient's appetite. Expectorant. Marijuana expands the lungs and dilates the bronchi, allowing the expulsion of congestion. Of course, as with any drug therapy, consultation with your physician is of extreme importance. Never begin drug therapy without the advice of a qualified physician. Do you know of someone who may possibly benefit from the use of cannabis marijuana? Should any sick or injured person be denied medication that may be of benefit? Is not the doctor in charge of the patient the best person to decide which drugs or combination of drugs is best for that patient? What would the impact of hemp cultivation for commercial uses be? Well, several impacts would be felt nation and worldwide. The first would be that the fact that we would no longer have the need for foreign oil we import. This would release the iron grip that the Mideast has on our throats. The second would be economically. The American farmer would have the most valuable crop back in his stable of crops. His income would be increased some $40 to $60 billion. The third would be environmental. The first environmental effect would be the saving of all of our virgin timberlands and the creatures that live therein. The second effect on the environment would be the change in paper production, would clean many of our water systems of the paper-produced deadly chemical dioxin. The third effect would be the cleaning of our nation's cities' air by using clean-burning methanol fuels in our cars. Do you realize the importance of this fact? The greenhouse effect would be reversed in a scant few years with an actual boost to our economy. Marijuana isn't the danger to society that some people would have you believe. Just how dangerous is marijuana in comparison to other legal substances? According to the government statistics, the number of American deaths per year for the following substances are: tobacco, 340 to 400,000 deaths per year. Alcohol, 125,000 deaths per year, not including traffic and murders attributed to alcohol. Caffeine, 1 to 10,000 deaths per year. Aspirin, 200 to 1,000 deaths per year, including overdose. Legal drugs, 14 to 27,000 deaths per year from deliberate and accidental overdose to legal drugs. Illegal drugs, 3,800 to 5,200 deaths per year. And marijuana, 0 deaths per year, including overdose.
Nearly all medicines have toxic, potentially lethal effects, but marijuana is not such a substance. There is no record in the extensive medical literature describing a proven, documented, cannabis-induced fatality. This is a remarkable statement. First, the record on marijuana encompasses 5,000 years of human experience. Second, marijuana is now used daily by enormous numbers of people throughout the world. Estimates suggest that between 20 million and 50 million Americans routinely, albeit illegally, smoke marijuana without the benefit of direct medical supervision. Yet, despite this long history of use and the extraordinarily high numbers of social smokers, there are simply no credible medical reports to suggest that consuming marijuana has caused a single death. By contrast, aspirin, a commonly used over-the-counter medication, causes hundreds of deaths each year. At present, it is estimated that marijuana's LD50 is around 1 to 20,000 or 1 to 40,000. In layman's terms, this means that in order to induce death, a marijuana smoker would have to consume 20 to 40,000 times as much marijuana as is contained in one marijuana cigarette. National Institute for Drug Abuse supplied marijuana cigarettes which weighed approximately 0.9 grams. A marijuana smoker would theoretically have to consume nearly 1,500 pounds of marijuana in about a 15-minute period to induce a lethal response. In practical terms, marijuana cannot induce a lethal response as a result of drug-related toxicity.
Oh, that's break the law. Smile, buddy. All right. That's legal smoking herbs. Pet sitters.
Want marijuana legalized. There's no reason why it should be labeled in a separate class compared to alcohol.
Free wisdom. Free wisdom, folks. Just pick a number. Just pick a number. Free wisdom. We got what the top DEA law judge just said about marijuana. They just found the marijuana receptors in the mind, which means that your body makes a natural THC or similar.
Right here. Here it is in big
There you go. Get your free wisdom, folks. Just pick a number and it's yours. Educate, educate, educate. It's the only long-term solution.
Question from Minnesota this morning. Go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering if you were aware that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington were growers of hemp in colonial times, and hemp is...
Are you asking whether they smoked it?
Excuse me?
Are you implying that they smoked it or made rope out of it?
Well, that they grew it for rope and possibly maybe even smoked it, but there was references in George Washington's diary about him going out and weeding out the male plants. You only weed out the male plants when you want to produce the drug.
I've read his diary, yes. You know, isn't it a little difficult to imagine George turning on? I mean, all right. I'm willing to leave this question open.
All right, let's take one more question.
See, the main reason we're here, I guess, based on this story, that someone was putting up a sign to a senator. People who put up the sign for the senator saw this shit over here. They contacted the city department. I guess they don't want any of the shit drawn by the sign, and so that's why we're here.
I'll have some of that stuff.